Hey guys, welcome back to some more Fire Emblem Heroes content. I'm back doing pre-recorded fake content after a little while. Today, I had an idea for a fun video. So people have been talking about how we could potentially get new weapon refines for the CYL3 characters, Camilla, Eliwood, Alm, and Micaiah. And the rationale is just that, in like September of 2019, we got refines for the COL1 characters. 2020, we got refines for COL2, and so logically, we could see refines for the COL3 characters in 2021. And I would love that. I'm rooting for it because I would love for Brave Micaiah to be even stronger. Personally, I'm not super convinced that we will get the refines just because it just seems like a really big jump to go all the way to the COL3 characters from where we are currently. But that's besides the point. Today, we are theory crafting potential weapon refines for these characters because I thought it would be fun. And originally, I was just going to talk about Micaiah because that's just being transparent. That's the one I care most about. But I came up with some fun ideas for the others too. So let's go through all of them. And this isn't really like a prediction video. It's more like here's what I would like to see. Here's what I think would help them perform better. And maybe I'll comment on whether or not I think it's likely that they will get that effect. Alright, we got Eliwood. He's got his Nini's Lance, effective against dragon and beast foes, grants speed +3. If unit initiates combat, grants blah +4 during combat. Honestly, is not even that bad of a weapon. The COL3 characters, for the most part, they actually have pretty good weapons. Like, they've aged okay, I think. Save for one. But yeah, Eliwood's weapon is actually okay. The beast effective damage has aged pretty well, just because we're getting more powerful beast units that we have to fight. I think Eliwood's problem is just that those new beast units and new dragon units are so strong that sometimes he struggles with them. So I was kind of thinking in line with Brave Roy's refine from 2 years ago, the Blazing Durandal, which just that's like one of the best refines in the entire game. Just randomly, they gave Brave Roy this amazing refine. So, with that in mind, I think Eliwood should get if unit initiates combat, grants attack speed +4, and negates foe skills that prevent follow-up attack, and negates foe skills that inflict special cooldown charge -X on unit. So, it's kind of reminiscent of like the Creator Sword, where like you're just negating all these skills that would mess up your combat, but it's like only half of those skills. So like he's not getting the guard effect, and he's not getting, I guess like the impact effect that Blazing Durandal has. He's just getting effects that help him kill things, and I think that would help him a lot. It would help him get follow-up attacks on units that would usually give him a hard time. It would help him activate Gale Force if you're running that on him. I think it would be pretty good. And honestly, that's like about what I expect him to get. Because like I said, like Brave Roy just randomly got this amazing refine. You could even like tune it even more, honestly. They could do like gets +10 HP after combat, so that it's kind of like the new flow refresh skill we got for cavalry units. So that's about what I expect and about what I would want for Brave Eliwood. I guess one thing with that refine is like you're not really getting a lot of the benefits if the opponent doesn't have those skills, but whatever. Next up, we have Camilla with Sangreor. Foe cannot counterattack if unit initiates combat, grants attack speed +3 during combat, and after combat inflicts gravity on foe and targets within one space. Once again, pretty good, honestly. I actually use Brave Camilla on one of my AR offense teams just because having that gravity is so useful, along with being able to heal, obviously. So, for staff refines, they kinda we've gotten a couple, and they're all over the place. We've gotten support effects, like Veronica's Refine is kind of a support effect, like drive attack speed, and then there's Jenny's Refine, which is mostly just like a combat buff for her. So I didn't really have much to go off of. My idea was to give her an interesting passive buff, kind of in line with Flane's staff, which gives like passive damage reduction, or even like Sephiran's inheritable staff, which gives passive guard to allies within 2 spaces. With that in mind, the idea I had for an interesting passive buff was effectively granting herself and granting her allies attack speed unity. So allies within 2 spaces get their penalties converted into bonuses during combat, whatever the text description usually is. I think that'd be a pretty good effect. I think that would instantly make her a fairly useful AR support unit. Because you figure if your tank is going to get hit by the Bright Shrine, then if you can consistently soak that and have it reversed, it's pretty good. That might be too strong. I honestly can't really gauge it myself. I don't think they would do all stats. It wouldn't be like convert all penalties into bonuses. I think that would be a little too far. I think they'll stick to attack speed because that's just kind of Camilla's thing with her attack speed push. In terms of what I think is more likely, I could see them doing passive bonus doubler instead. That would maybe be a little more tame and more in line with what they would actually do. So yeah, what I want is attack speed unity. I expect something more like bonus doubler, I guess. Okay, so Brave Alm, right? He hasn't aged as well as the other units, but that's okay. He has dragon effective damage, attack +3, if number of foes within 2 spaces is greater than number of allies within 2 spaces, grants blah +5. So I mean, back then that seemed pretty good. That was like 2 years ago. That was before we started getting like this spectrum +5 on every single new unit. So back then it seemed like a big deal. But now, yeah. I was trying to think of ways to make him like really overpowered, because like Brave Ike got his Refine and he was completely ridiculous, and then Brave Hector got his Refine and he was completely ridiculous. The problem is I feel like you can't really do that with Alm because he's just not like an enemy phase unit like they are. So I was trying to think of, okay, well, how do you make Brave Alm like similarly busted without just turning him into like a tank? So here's what I came up with. First of all, I think they should change the base effect so that he gets the spectrum buff if there are more foes within 3 spaces than there are allies within 2 spaces. I feel like that would just make it easier to activate that condition, and it would just be better in general. So there's that. Additionally, I think he should get Canto for melee units, so he gets his remaining movement +1 after combat. He gets that Canto, he gets, at start of turn, unit can move an additional space. Literally just turn him into a cavalry unit. That's my idea. So he gets 3 movement, he runs in, hits something, and then he can retreat. And that way he's able to like activate his other weapon condition, which is like having more foes around him. He can activate that more easily and like actually retreat afterwards. And finally, I think he should get like some other effect that gives him even more stats, because like Sealed Falchion, like that Refine, I'm pretty sure it just gives you a way to get +10 to all stats. So I feel like Draco Falchion should get the same thing. So maybe something really trivial to activate, like if bonus is active on unit, grants +5 to all stats. I feel like that would be good. And since his weapon is giving him that buff anyway, it's like it's always going to be active, unless he's like gravitied or something. So yeah, that's my idea for Brave Alm. He gets an additional move, he runs in, hits something, probably kills it with Send Scale, because he's just going to have like a million attack, and then he can retreat. And I was thinking, you know, I don't know if that alone would be enough to like turn him into a meta-relevant unit. So I don't know. If you had to put something more on top of it, then you could also give him inflicts gravity on foe and foes within one space after combat. That way, he's running in, attacking them, debuffing them so they can't like approach you, and then you can retreat with Kanto. Yeah, Alm is kind of a weird one to Theorycraft for because he's just an infantry sword with like a pretty strong weapon and an okay A slot skill. Yeah, honestly, he'd probably be better off if this send skill was like on his weapon, but whatever. Finally, we have Micaiah. Currently, she has effective damage against armored and cavalry foes, res +3, grants bonus to attack speed defense res, equal to current penalty on each of foe stats. So pretty good, honestly. I think it's held up okay. Some people don't think so. Whatever. I will say, she does struggle a lot in certain matchups, especially if they are negating debuffs, so like Crom, Legendary Crom I mean, and Bector. Yeah. She struggles against anybody that negates debuffs, I would say. And it's kind of a question of like, okay, well, should her refine address that issue? Because like maybe she's just not supposed to be good in those matchups. I think, you know, maybe I think she should be able to kill Brave Hector. It's my humble opinion. She has triangle advantage. She's supposed to be good against armored units. Frickin', it just bothers me that she can't kill Brave Hector consistently. I actually had several ideas for what they could do for her refine. I'm gonna kind of cycle through them because honestly there are a bunch of things they could do. They could do sort of the Plegian tome effect where if the enemy has penalties on them, then she just like multiplies them. And they could even do like Gunthra's tome where it's like no matter what, they get -4 on all their stats, and also they get minus whatever penalty they have. They could do that. That would be okay. I was thinking they could kind of borrow the effect from Iago's tome, where like you inflict debuffs on enemies that aren't adjacent to units, so that way it's like even if like whether you're adjacent to anybody or not, like you're gonna get debuffed. So they could do at start of turn inflicts defense res -6 on all foes that are not adjacent to an ally. So that way it's just inescapable. You can't not get debuffed. That would be fun. She has a bunch of res, so they could do damage reduction based on that. There are a couple there are a couple of units that have that effect, like New Year's Selkie has it, I think. I'm looking at Micaiah's page here, and I just realized, is this a pun? Queen of Dawn, cause it's Dane. She's from Dane. So has this been a pun all along? Whatever. Anyway, okay, so for the final effect, right, I want to clarify first. Out of all of the weapon effects and skill effects we have, they have never had an effect that has negated a skill that was already negating something. So what that means is, we can't negate skills that negate debuffs, and we also can't negate skills that negate effective damage. So like there's no way to get past Bector's skill where he negates effective damage, and there's no way to get past his other skill where he negates penalties. So with that in mind, the effect that I want, and the effect that I think will help her the most is if unit's HP is greater than 25%, grants +5 to all stats, and negates foes' skills that prevent units' follow-up attack. So kind of like Eliwood's. Additionally, if foe is armored or cavalry, unit can make a guaranteed follow-up attack before a foe can counterattack. I think it helps because a lot of the armored units who would want her to fight, they can negate her follow-up, or they have their own guaranteed follow-up attack, and if they can do that, then they just kill her, especially like dragons that usually have a bunch of res. Yeah. Between Brave Micaiah and Duo Micaiah, I find that Duo Micaiah is usually much more likely to get the one-shot off on armors, whereas Brave Micaiah has a harder time. So getting that guaranteed follow-up attack I think would help a lot. I guess we've never had a weapon that has like granted effective damage and then also given like another effect on top of that against that same weapon type or movement type. But I suspect that her weapon will have some kind of effect that exclusively activates against armored units and cavalry units, because that's just Micaiah's thing. She bullies armored units and cavalry units for some reason. They could go further and give her like the full no follow-up effect where she's also negating their follow-up attacks, but I think as long as she can double, then she'll be fine. She won't even need the impact effect so much. As for that additional effect, I kind of got the idea from Asithia's Dark Spikes, where I think if she's less than 100% health, she makes a guaranteed follow-up attack before a field counter attack. I think so. I think that's the effect she has. This is kind of like that, except it's unconditional against armored units and cavalry units. And that's it. So let me know what you think of my ideas for these refines. Hopefully they actually do get the refines in September, because that would just be really cool. We'll be back sometime soon, probably with a Fae channel reaction, because I think we're getting one soon. So look forward to that. Or go back and watch my reaction to that if it has already happened.